A vision of tomorrow. Versatile Vision Films. The old house stood alone, shrouded in darkness. Its windows, like empty eyes, stared out into the night, revealing nothing of the secrets it held within. The wind whispered through the broken shutters, adding a mournful note to the eerie silence that enveloped the place. A single light flickered within, casting long, distorted shadows on the lawn. The bulb, hanging by a thread, seemed to struggle against the encroaching darkness, its feeble glow barely illuminating the room. Each flicker was like a heartbeat, a reminder of the life that once thrived here. It had been a peaceful night in Ashton Falls, the kind of night where silence held its breath and the stars seemed close enough to touch. The town, nestled in a valley, was usually a haven of tranquility. The gentle rustling of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl were the only sounds that broke the stillness. Until now. A scream tore through the stillness, sharp and sudden. It was a sound that shattered the calm, sending ripples of fear through the hearts of those who heard it. The scream echoed through the night, a chilling reminder that something terrible had happened. Then, silence descended again, heavier this time, thick with unspoken fear. The air seemed to grow colder, the shadows deeper. It was as if the house itself was holding its breath, waiting for the next moment of horror to unfold. Inside the house, Sheriff Davis knelt beside the lifeless body, his weathered face pale under the harsh glare of the portable generator. His eyes, usually so sharp and alert, were now clouded with sorrow and frustration. He had seen death before, but this was different. This was personal. The victim was Eleanor Vance, a woman known for her kindness and her delicious apple pies. She was a beloved figure in the community, always ready with a smile and a helping hand. Her loss was a blow to the heart of Ashton Falls. Now her eyes stared vacantly at the ceiling, her life extinguished as abruptly as a blown-out candle. The warmth and light she had brought to the world were gone, leaving only a cold, empty shell behind. The room was in disarray, furniture overturned, papers scattered across the floor, but the silence screamed louder than any chaos. It was a silence that spoke of violence, of a struggle that had ended in tragedy. The walls seemed to close in, bearing witness to the horror that had unfolded within them. This wasn't the first tragedy to befall Ashton Falls. The town had a dark history, one that was often whispered about but rarely spoken of openly. There were stories of old curses, of restless spirits that roamed the night, seeking vengeance for wrongs long past. A year ago, young Emily Carter had disappeared without a trace, her case still unsolved, a festering wound on the town's soul. Her bright smile and innocent laughter were now just memories, haunting the hearts of those who had loved her. Sheriff Davis, feeling the weight of another unsolved case settling on his shoulders, knew he needed help. The burden of these tragedies was too much for one man to bear. He needed someone with a unique set of skills, someone who could see beyond the obvious and uncover the hidden truths. He needed someone who could see through the shadows, someone who could hear the whispers of the dead, someone who could piece together the fragments of a shattered life and bring justice to those who had been wronged. He needed Detective Elias Black, a man with a reputation for solving the unsolvable, for bringing light to the darkest corners of the human soul. As the sheriff stood in the shadowed silence of the old house, he knew that Elias Black was their only hope. Detective Black arrived the next morning, a solitary figure stepping out of a dust-covered sedan. The car, a relic from another era, seemed to mirror the detective's own weathered appearance. The town, with its quaint streets and old buildings, was a stark contrast to the bustling cityscapes he was used to. Tall and lean, with eyes that seemed to absorb every detail, he carried an aura of quiet intensity. His trench coat flapped slightly in the morning breeze, adding to his enigmatic presence. Every step he took was measured, every glance purposeful, as if he was already piecing together the story of this place. His arrival stirred the town, whispers following him like shadows as he walked towards the crime scene. The townspeople, unaccustomed to such a figure, exchanged glances and hushed conversations. Children peeked from behind their parents, and shopkeepers paused in their daily routines to catch a glimpse of the newcomer. The townsfolk watched him with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. They had heard stories of Detective Black, tales of his uncanny ability to solve the unsolvable, but also of the darkness that seemed to follow him. Their eyes reflected a blend of hope and fear, wondering what his presence would mean for their quiet lives. They knew his reputation, the brilliant detective haunted by his own demons. His eyes, though sharp and observant, held a depth of sorrow that spoke of battles fought and lost. He was a man driven by a relentless pursuit of truth, no matter the personal cost. Black was famous for solving the most baffling cases, but also for his unorthodox methods and his almost unsettling ability to delve into the minds of criminals. His office back in the city was a testament to his brilliance, filled with case files, evidence boards, and the remnants of countless investigations. Each solved case added to his legend, but also to the weight he carried. As Black entered the crime scene, his gaze swept over every detail, his mind already piecing together the puzzle. The scene was eerily quiet, the kind of silence that spoke volumes. Every object, every mark, every shadow held a clue, and Black was determined to uncover them all. He could feel the weight of unspoken secrets, the fear clinging to the air like cobwebs. The atmosphere was thick with tension, the kind that made the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. It was as if the very walls were whispering, urging him to uncover the truth. He knew this case ran deeper than it seemed. The surface showed a simple crime, but Black's instincts told him otherwise. There were layers to this town, hidden depths that only someone with his experience could navigate. He was ready to peel back those layers no matter what he found. He could sense it in his bones. Years of experience had honed his intuition to a fine edge, and every fiber of his being was alert. Danger lurked in the shadows, and Black was prepared to face it head-on. The sheriff briefed him, his voice laced with frustration and a hint of desperation. The local law enforcement had done their best, but this case was beyond their expertise. They needed Black's unique skills, his ability to see what others missed. Black listened intently, absorbing not just the words, but also the unspoken fears, the hidden truths that lay beneath the surface of this quiet town. He could sense the sheriff's anxiety, the pressure to solve the case quickly, but Black knew that true understanding took time, and he was willing to dig deep to find the answers. The town's secrets were about to be unveiled, and Detective Black was the key to unlocking them. Back in his makeshift office at the local inn, Black sat alone, a half-empty bottle of whiskey, and a worn photograph his only companions. The room was dimly lit, casting long shadows that seemed to dance with the flickering light of a single lamp. The air was thick with the scent of old paper and the sharp tang of alcohol, a combination that had become all too familiar to him. The photo was faded with time, the edges frayed, but the image it held was clear, a younger Black, his face unmarred by the lines of countless investigations, his eyes filled with a light that had long since dimmed. It was a snapshot of a different era, a time when hope and ambition had driven him forward, unburdened by the weight of the world. He was standing next to a woman with laughing eyes and a cascade of auburn hair, his wife, Sarah. Her smile was infectious, a beacon of joy that had once lit up his life. They had been so happy, so full of dreams and plans for the future. But those dreams had been cruelly shattered, leaving behind only memories and a deep, unending sorrow. The memory of her loss was a dull ache in his chest, a constant reminder of the darkness that lurked beneath the surface of the world. It was a pain that never truly went away, a shadow that followed him wherever he went. He often found himself lost in thought, wondering what might have been if things had turned out differently. He poured himself another drink, the amber liquid burning a familiar path down his throat. It was a ritual he had come to rely on, a way to numb the pain and silence the ghosts that haunted him. Each sip was a small comfort, a brief respite from the relentless march of time and the memories that refused to fade. His past was a tangled web of triumphs and tragedies, a constant shadow that followed him from case to case. Every alleyway, every dimly lit room held echoes of the past, reminders of the battles he had fought and the ones he had lost. The city was a labyrinth of memories, each corner hiding a story, each street a chapter in his life. He had joined the force to fight for justice, to protect the innocent. It had been a noble cause, one that had given his life purpose and direction. He had believed in the system, in the power of the law to bring order to chaos. But the reality had been far more complex. The lines between right and wrong often blurred. But somewhere along the way, he had become entangled in the very darkness he sought to escape. The cases had taken their toll, each one chipping away at his resolve, eroding his faith in the world. He had seen too much, experienced too much, and the weight of it all had left him weary and disillusioned. Sarah's death had shattered his illusions, leaving him with a profound understanding of the human capacity for both love and cruelty. It was a lesson he had learned the hard way, one that had left him scarred and forever changed. But it had also given him a deeper empathy, a greater understanding of the pain and suffering of others. And so he continued to fight, not just for justice, but for the memory of the woman he had loved and lost. Days turned into nights as Black tirelessly pursued every lead, every whisper, every fleeting shadow that crossed his path. He interrogated the townsfolk, his questions sharp and incisive, his gaze unwavering. But he was met with a wall of silence, a collective reluctance to reveal anything that might disturb the carefully constructed facade of their peaceful town. There was fear in their eyes, but also something else. Guilt? Complicity? It was as if they were all guarding a terrible secret, one they were willing to protect at any cost. He felt their gazes following him as he moved through the town, a constant reminder that he was an outsider, an intruder in their midst. Their silence was more deafening than any confession, a testament to the secrets buried deep within the heart of Ashton Falls. The investigation hit a dead end. Every clue seemed to lead him in circles, every path ending in a wall of silence. Black could feel the frustration gnawing at him, the need for justice burning like a fire in his gut. One evening, as Black sat in his room poring over the case files, a name jumped out at him. Eleanor Vance. The name echoed in his mind, a distant memory tugging at the edges of his consciousness. He had heard that name before, but where? He searched through his mental archives, sifting through years of cases, faces, and names, and then it hit him. Eleanor Vance. She had been a witness in a case he had worked on years ago, a case that had haunted him ever since. The case involved a ruthless crime lord, a man who had built his empire on fear and violence. Eleanor Vance had been the only witness brave enough to testify against him. Black had put the man away, but not before he had threatened to exact his revenge on everyone who had crossed him. Could this be it? Could Eleanor Vance's murder be connected to that case from his past? A cold dread settled in his stomach as he realized the truth. This wasn't just another case. It was personal,